Welcome to Diving into God's Word, a brief weekly podcast with Mark and Jim. Mark is a retired pastor and Jim is a lifelong Christian with a passion for studying God's Word. They love to discuss the Bible. After several early morning breakfast meetings, they decided to record their conversations for sharing. Because of their dissimilar backgrounds, they bring different perspectives and insights to each discussion. Their goal with this podcast is to increase awareness and awe of God and His love through thoughtful discussions of God's amazing Word.
Jim, you usually start by asking me how I'm doing, so
how are you doing?
No! I was doing good until you asked me. No.
You look like you're doing well.
I'm doing well.
Okay,
how
good.
about you? How are you doing, Jim?
You know what? I'm doing great.
Well, that's good.
I am doing great. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
If you guys don't realize it, we do have a lot of fun.
We do.
Yeah.
I think it shows.
Yeah, I don't know. Talk about fun. Let's talk about love and marriage.
You know, it should be fun.
It should be.
Yeah, it should be fun. And you know what? For many, it is fun.
For many, it is.
Yes,
but
yes.
I think the one thing we have to recognize is that it takes work.
That takes. Even for the ones that are having fun,
it takes a lot of work.
In fact, I think the timing might be right for this little thing. Okay, Tolstoy said, "What counts in making a happy marriage is not how compatible you are, but how you deal with the incompatibility." So what we're going to talk about today is how God helps us and guides us and actually commands us of how to operate within marriage.
Yeah.
And there's always incompatibility. You never find somebody that's perfectly compatible. You may think so, but then as you get to know each other, you find out that there's incompatibilities, and that's part of the beauty of marriage.
And the thing is that if people try to overcome those, and change people so that they are more compatible,
Right.
that's not good.
No.
But what really helps, and we can, again, because we're talking about love, I always said one of the best things is if you pour a lot of Christian love into your, agape love into
Absolutely.
your marriage, it's like oil.
Absolutely.
And it just removes a lot of the friction.
Yep. Yep.
But one of the things I really want to talk about is, because it's controversial, God in Ephesians chapter 5, I'm not going to read the whole passage, but in chapter 5, there's a few things that God says about husbands and wives. First of all, he says, wives, submit to your husbands as you do to the Lord. And then husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. So here's a quick test for you, Jim. And we didn't prepare this.
Uh-oh.
But if you look at wives, who are their role models?
In the Bible?
Right here. And I didn't read it all. It's really the church.
That's right.
Right. But husbands, if you look at who's the role model there? Just
Christ.
Who's
Right.
got the harder role model?
You look at
Christ.
Christ. That's easy to say. Yeah.
So, first of all, it's not that when we talk about this, different role models, but when we look at those role models, that will help us tremendously. But what I really want to focus on is that God tells wives later on to respect
Right.
their husbands.
Right.
He tells husbands to love their wives.
That's right.
So there's two different commands, two different role models,
Right.
but two different commands. And the big question is, why do you think God gives different commands? Why doesn't he just say, love each other in the marriage?
Right.
That's what the world says,
Right.
And, but he says, no, wives, respect your husbands, and husbands, love your wives.
Men and women are different, and he's talking about what they need individually.
Say that again, because that's so important.
So men and women are different, and he's talking about what they individually need.
Right, because what love is always thinking of the other person, right?
That's right.
And what do men, and we're talking general terms now.
Right.
But men, what do they need is respect.
That's
They
right.
need respect at work,
Right.
respect whatever,
Right.
but especially from their wives. One of the things that really hurt husbands from marriage counseling that I've done, if the wives get together with their wife get together with other wives, and it turns out that they all are cutting down their husbands.
Horrible.
That's horrible.
That's horrible. But the same thing could happen with husbands. It's something that we should not partake in.
No, we shouldn't partake in that. But husbands, men in general, need to be respected.
Right.
Women in general
need to be loved.
Need to be loved.
That's
and
right.
I don't know. I can only think of one person in all my years of marriage counseling, one male, who came and said, "The romance has left our marriage." I can give you dozens and dozens of wives who have said that.
No, and all married, right? All married. So what's up with that?
Because the husbands were really not giving. Usually what happens, even in good marriages, is we give our spouse what we think, what we need.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So there's husbands who might be respecting their wives, or I see it a lot of times with wives. They try to shower their husbands with love, and he just says, "Give me space, give me respect."
Okay.
But because that's what they want.
Right.
And so God, in His wisdom, is saying, if you really love this person, think of what they need.
Right.
And men need respect. Women need love.
Right. And not that that's a hard and fast all the time, like wives don't give their husbands love. That's not what you're saying, but you're saying in general.
Right.
And you've got to make sure, like you could give love but not respect, I guess, if that's possible.
Yeah.
That's not a winning combination for a woman to give to their wives. The husband could give respect to their wife but not love.
Right.
That's not a winning combination.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah. That's it.
Now, one thing you left out though is you left out submit to.
Yeah, I know. I was going to get to that
out of reverence for Christ. Am I getting ahead of myself again?
No.
Okay.
Because hate to say it, but man, that's a hard one in today's world to understand. We think of submit as being under. What we have to realize is that God is a God of order, okay? And men and women, wives and husbands, all have the same status. We're all children of God.
Right.
Through Christ, we are His saints, we are His children, right? But just like in all parts of life, to have a marriage function well, God says, a two-headed monster is not good.
Right.
So different roles,
And you have to come up with a better analogy than that, for marriage. They both start with them, but we gotta do better than that.
No, but the way I've heard it explained, and I like this one, it's using baseball, and sometimes we don't understand baseball, but think of a pitcher and catcher in baseball.
So you know what this reminds me of?
What?
So pitcher and catcher. I'll come back to what it reminds me of. But who is calling the plays?
A catcher is.
The catcher is.
Right.
So it reminds me of Big Fat Greek Wedding, a very funny movie where the wife says, yes, he's the head of the household, but I'm the neck. But because that's kind of, people think that the pitcher is in control.
Right.
But it's actually the catcher who is calling the shots. And you'll see the pitchers sometimes shake their head no.
Shake their head off.
They no, and so the catcher chooses another pitch that pitcher should throw. Right. So the catcher is actually controlling it, but it's actually a discussion. It's a conversation that's silent that a lot of times you're not aware of. But you'll see the catcher making these little signs. You'll see the pitcher raise, either agreeing yes or saying
communication
no.
though.
This communication.
And in a really good marriage, 99 whatever percentage of decisions are made mutually. They talk it out. If the husband loves the wife as Christ loved the church, that means he never thinks of himself first. He always puts her needs.
That's right.
In front. If she's giving him respect, they're meeting halfway, or they're talking things out, and almost always because of good communication. And and if the husband comes up with an idea, the wife says, I don't know if that's such a good idea, and they talk it out. Guess what? A lot of husbands will say, "You're right, honey."
That's right. That's right.
You're right. So in many cases, if we do the communication in a marriage, that Christian love, that I'm communicating here, not so much about what I want, but what I think it's good for our marriage. What you need, it works, right?
And it kind of comes back a little bit to plan, pray, and practice.
Right.
Because if there's a tough conversation that needs to be taking place that maybe you as a husband are aware of,
right?
Whatever that might be, a financial decision, a change in finance, something, right? Or from the wife's perspective, that you can pray in advance about how that conversation goes and pray that God is in control over that conversation.
And pray together.
And pray together also, if once it's out on the table.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that having God be the ruler of your marriage,
right,
and not making yourself the center, and always looking for the good of your wife, or if you're the husband, or vice versa, and your children as well.
Right.
So that you are you're basically looking out for them.
Right.
Always.
Yeah. And if both sides are doing that,
it's so much better.
So much better. Yeah.
But even if you disagree, though, another good practice would be if you disagree. Let's say it's something about what one of the children is asked to do, something that one parent says yes, the other parent says no way, and so behind closed doors, not in front of the child, this is discussed,
right? And
then a decision is made, and let's say that you still disagree, but when you come out that doors, what do?
You have that united front.
So in front of the children, it looks like you both agree, so that there's no wedges that the children.
And you get into parenting a little bit now.
Oh yeah, that's right. Am I going off the rails?
No, but this is good. This is good.
It says in family, so
And there's one Bible passage I want to read. It says, "Fathers, do not exasperate your children.
Yep.
Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord." That's Ephesians 6:4. Now, just think of that word training.
Mm-hmm.
Think of athletes in training.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of work there, right?
That's right.
To train somebody takes a lot of work and a lot of commitment on the coach's part.
Oh, without question.
Right?
Yep.
Coaches work hard, right? I think, again, love means sacrificial love,
right?
Agape love.
Right.
One of the reasons that a lot of times children are not as obedient as they should be, put that way, that there's a lot of chaos maybe in the family, a lot of times it's because the parents don't want to sacrifice all the time and effort it takes to give a child loving, consistent discipline.
Yes.
After a hard day of work, I come home and the kids are doing something. It's easier for me just to kind of ignore them or do something, get out of here without really training them, instructing them.
And so the consistency. Let's talk about that. Yeah. You come home tired. You don't deal with it. Another time they're doing the exact same thing, and you yell at them, right?
Yep.
And now the kids are confused, right?
Where's the line? Yesterday was there. Today is over here.
So consistency. But there's also, I think, in parenting, is not to discipline when you're emotional.
Oh, yeah.
Discipline with their best interest in mind. And listen, we've all done it both ways, right? But the best way and the most effective way is to be unemotional for their best interest of the family, and to make it a learning experience from them.
And sometimes, because of who we are, if I come home and the three kids are over here playing, and I might pick the wrong kid and say, discipline them.
Right.
And they were not the guilty party.
Right.
And one of the things, if I discipline and I'm just angry, I discipline, or I discipline the wrong child and I realize it later, one of the best things parents can do,
apologize
to the kids, apologize, because you're teaching them, you're
Yeah.
training them.
That's right. Humility.
You're training
forgiveness,
them. And you're sacrificing.
And sacrifice. There you go.
You're thinking of them and what is best for them. Give them an example of what it means to apologize.
Right.
But agape love just covers everything in a family. Between spouses, children, and parents. If there's sacrificial love, and kids can get it if the parents train them and bring them up in the Lord, right?
That's right.
And they teach them, look at what Jesus has done for you. Look at what he has all sacrificed for you.
Right.
Oh, the kids grab onto that. The kids grab onto that, and they can show and return it to their parents.
It's beautiful, Mark.
Yeah. So, just remember, pour a lot of agape love into your families. It will relieve and ease a lot of the friction in families.
I want to back up to one little part.
Okay.
And that is that I think as spouses that we have to make sure that we're communicating effectively with our spouses. We talked about kids a little bit.
Right.
But with our spouses, we talked about disagreements.
Right.
But I think that we also need to look for every opportunity that we can to compliment our spouses, thank our spouses. And also when we're communicating with them, this is, I think, critically important, is any opportunity that we have when we're sitting with them or anywhere close to them to look into their eyes as we're speaking with them. Because when you look in someone's eyes, especially with spouses, that speaks to them loudly of I care and you are important to me.
And I'm paying attention to you. I'm not.
He is.
I'm not distracted. I'm not.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, we don't even like that in regular conversations. Today, how often, if you're talking to somebody and they're looking at their phone, you're going, what is this?
Right. Engaged, there's a caring that goes back and forth, and there's a communication.
I look at my phone right now.
Come on. But there's a very deep communication when you look in someone's eyes, and especially someone that you love, like your spouse.
Right.
So
that's a great point.
So it's just something that.
That's a great point. So there's so much we could talk about, but hopefully these little things we mentioned give you some food for thought. And like Jim has been saying, if you have opportunity, like our podcast, give us your comments. You can just, hit markjcares.com and you can contact me and send an email, or on Facebook, give us comments. Tell us what you think.
So next week, Mark, we're going to talk about loving our enemies. Okay?
Yes.
So that we're going to have...
That's probably the easiest one.
Okay. All right. So listen, join us next week. And everyone have a blessed week.
Yeah. Blessings.
Bye for now.
Jim and Mark would love to hear your thoughts and questions. The easiest way to do so is to send them an email at diveintobible@gmail.com. You can also find a list of previous episodes at markjcares.com. Thank you for listening. We pray that these podcasts are a blessing to you. If so, please share them with your friends and family. Jim and Mark will be back next week with a new episode. May God bless you and your loved ones.